Business news from the Capital Region. This is Washington Business Report with ABC7 national correspondent Rebecca Cooper.
Thanks for joining us for a fresh look at business and finance in the Washington region. Coming up on today's show, a one-on-one interview with the CEO of Peet's Coffee and Tea, plus a small business spotlight on why networking is simply not working for some and why face-to-face meetings are making a comeback. Plus, a special Mother's Day shout out from top CEOs who credit their moms with much of their success. Well, we all know that Washington, D.C. is fueled by powerful people. We also know that fueling those powerful people is caffeine. Coffee is big business here in Washington, and strategy is pivotal for success, especially when coffee shops are fighting giants such as Starbucks. The CEO of Peet's Coffee and Tea says he's ready to take on the big players in the coffee market. He has an impressive resume proving he can do it, too. Peet's Coffee is popping up all over this city, including right next to the White House. In this week's one-on-one interview, CEO of Peet's Coffee, Dave Burwick, sat down with me at the newest Peet's Coffee and Tea on M Street. Dave Burwick, welcome to Washington Business Report. So you all are hitting the Washington market big, but for those who are still new to Peet's Coffee, explain why it has such a cult following in California.
I think we have a cult following in California because we make great coffee. We do it the right way. Alfred Peet came over to Northern California, to Berkeley, in 1966 and started roasting beans the way they're done in Europe, a deeper, darker roast. And we've stayed true to that approach and really treated those beans very specially for the last almost 50 years now. And it's become really a mainstay in the Bay Area.
Well, so what are your plans for growth overall, not just here in Washington, but beyond?
Yeah, I think we're in hyper growth mode right now. So Peet's, for about 10 or 11 years, was a public company that really was competing with giants, like the Starbucks of the world, the Crafts of the world. And really our goal was to grow carefully and grow by delivering our beans through this direct store delivery model we have, where we basically put beans on trucks and drive them to stores around the country. And we grew through grocery stores. And we didn't really grow much through our retail coffee shop business. Now, interestingly, we went private about 14 months ago, and it really has unleashed this renaissance at Peet's, where we now can grow and do the things we want to do to be more successful long term. So we're growing much more rapidly, which means we're growing in grocery stores, we're adding new products in grocery stores, but we're also, very importantly, taking these retail coffee shops where we had 200 about a year ago. We'll have 300 by the end of the year, and hopefully about 400 or 500 in the next 2 or 3 years.
So you're well known in the business world. You had a long career both at PepsiCo and Pepsi and at Weight Watchers. How is it different to be at a brand? First, you were at brands that are already global, already well known, and fighting to hold on to their share and grow. Now you're at a company that is poised for growth. So tell me the different ways that you had to approach this job.
I can tell you, it's very exciting to be part of essentially a consumer goods company that's growing double digits, because that doesn't happen very often these days. I think at PepsiCo is all about brands, right? It's about building brands and building mega brands that are global, and it's all about a deep appreciation for what it takes to build a big brand. Weight Watchers is more about the mission, right? So Weight Watchers is about the whole idea of how do you transform your life and your health. And that's what really attracted me to Weight Watchers, was the mission. I think what Peet's has is sort of a combination of both. So we have a great brand, right? A great brand that's just on the West Coast primarily, that we have the opportunity to bring to the rest of the country, but also we have a mission, right? It's all about the pursuit of better coffee, right? So Alfred Peet came here 48 years ago, decided that American coffee really wasn't very good. He started this whole specialty coffee revolution. He was the grandfather of specialty coffee, if you will. Starbucks used to buy their beans from Peet's. That's correct. So there were 3 founders of Starbucks who befriended Alfred Peet. They would go to his shop in Vine and Walnut in Berkeley, and he taught them how to roast. He taught them how to roast, and he showed them what great coffee was all about.
Well, in that way, it does seem like you're, once again, Pepsi versus Coke. Now you're Peet's versus Starbucks. Yep. Do you see them as your direct competitors? There is a lot of brand loyalty to Starbucks.
There is. Actually, I think I mean, I come from a world, right, Pepsi, Coke, where competition is fantastic because everybody plays on a higher level. You have to be more aggressive. You have to be more creative. You have to always be thinking and always be willing to try something different and be agile.
How do you take on Starbucks and try and wean some of those drinkers over to your brand?
I think the key to our success is really staying true to what the original tenets were for Peet's Coffee, which is we source the best beans in the world. We pay a lot of money for those beans. We want only the best. We have long-standing relationships with growers all over the world, so we can get access to those beans. And then importantly, when we roast our beans, we hand roast them. So it's not automated. It's not going into a roasting machine and people push buttons. It's actually 12 human beings, real people in the world that roast our beans in Alameda, California, outside of Oakland, and they do it to the five senses. So they really do it. They hand do it. Sight, sound, smell, touch, everything.
So Peet's did go public, had a successful IPO, but then, as you said, a couple of years ago, went back to being private just as you were coming on board. What does that offer you in terms of opportunity? What's the advantage of being a private company versus a publicly held company?
And I've worked for a couple public companies before, and public companies are great, but I tell you, private is just fantastic. And particularly when you have the right owners who are looking at the long-term health of the business. When we were public, we could do one thing really well. We were a company that delivered beans to grocery stores across the country. That was it. We couldn't be a retailer. We couldn't really do much for Peets.com and our e-commerce business.
What?
Because you know what? The street demands a return. And actually, if you look at the highest returns you're going to get are when you invest in building your grocery business. And if we diluted our resources or our efforts across too many different channels, we wouldn't get the results that we got. So we got very good, predictable results, 6 to 8% growth, top line growth every year. The market liked it. The company was bought for about almost $1 billion, so it worked out great for everybody. But so
now it's not a charity. Why do they see this course as the way to pivot for future growth?
I think here's the difference. So we were adding on average maybe 3 or 4 retail stores a year up until last year. Last year we built 33 stores. This year is going to be 60 or 70 stores. So let's say 100 stores in 2 years.
Combining with Caribou Coffee, taking over many of their locations.
That's right. We're able to sort of fast track our way to, for example, to DC. Caribou had 20 some odd stores. We were able to convert those stores to Peet's.
So let's talk about some of the growing pains that you had to take on when you took over, because there is such a devotion to Peet's that it got a little uncomfortable for Peet's as they were growing. Some of the employees felt they were growing too big and losing sight of the employees. Some of the customers felt they were growing too big and losing sight of the original mission, the original corner store kind of philosophy. How have you dealt with that to get people back into a place where they're passionate about the brand?
We have a mantra that's called scale the smallness. So what we want to do is maintain that. And it's a tough balancing act, but we want to act like we are. We do things as a small company. We as I said, 12 people hand roast our beans every day. We deliver them fresh to stores around the country. We cannot in any way interfere with that. But at the same time, we have the ability through our distribution method to scale and bring the brand to more places more quickly. So it is a tough balancing act, and I think the biggest challenge, honestly, is when we were a little bit more risk averse, and probably wisely risk averse. When you're a $300 or $400 million public company competing against giants, you have to be very careful. Part of it's just encouraging people to take more risks, recognizing that we're going to do some things that might fail, and failure is okay. And we're just going to build on that failure and move forward.
So that's a good way to keep managers happy, because they're given some opportunity to have a little bit of leeway. But how do you keep the people behind the counters happy? How do you keep them loyal to the Peet's brand?
I think treat them well. Treat them well, pay them well, give them good benefits, and give them opportunities to develop and grow. Our people are different. We're very eclectic. We're very individualistic. We don't have uniforms. We hire authentic people, and I think what Alfred Peet, if nothing else, was he was an authentic Dutchman. He was a little persnickety. He was sort of like the soup Nazi, take your beans and get out of here. And it's all about the purity of the beans. And in fact, he didn't even make coffee in his stores for a number of years, because he didn't. You go do that at home. I'm gonna roast these beans.
Focus on doing one thing well.
And do it really well. And he was very adamant about that. And I think, and a bit iconoclastic. And I think we like to hire people like that too.
And how did you grow into the role of CEO? What did you learn at Pepsi, and what did you learn at Weight Watchers that have served you well in the job as chief executive?
I think it's really easy. Might seem kind of cliche, but I think just building a great team is really what you need to do. Then you can just take credit for the team. For the
Well, are
team's
you one of those,
success.
if you find someone's not working on the team, are you one of those that finds it better to cut them out and cut them out quickly, or try and work with them and grow them, or what do you do when the team isn't working?
Yeah, I think I've tended to be more the person who takes what you have and find the good, and build that up. I mean, to a point. Obviously, at a certain point, when you can't do that, then you have to go a different direction. But I believe that people, and particularly at Pete's as well, are there for a reason, because they do have talent, and it's my job to bring that talent out and to enable them to flourish.
Dave Burwick, thanks for joining us on
Rebecca.
Washington Business Report.
Thank you very much.
And when we return, networking is not working. That's according to our next guest. What is working? Stay tuned to find out.